Hot Mic is brought to you by Red Wing Shoes of Fargo. Built to last. 3003 Main Avenue, Fargo. I have in my hand the contract for the Bison of the Mountain West. We'll dive into that. You'll hear from the Bison players about moving up. Plus, Thompson is rolling again in girls hoops. Hot Mic starts now.
Hot Mic with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mic.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something.
Coach Dom Izzo, WDAY in Fargo, North Dakota.
Can you give me a layup or something?
Hot Mic. Hot Mic. Presented by Northwestern Mutual.
That program is second to none.
On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo. Dom Izzo.
Good Wednesday morning. Welcome to the unpacking edition of Hot Mic on WDAY Extra. KSFL TV, good morning, everybody in Sioux Falls, KMBN in Western South Dakota, all parts in between at Inforum.com. It is the 11th of February, 2026. Happy Hump Day, everybody. Ready for a busy few days on tap here. I suppose the first 2 days have just been, we haven't had anything going on. We actually have events happening, games coming. We're on the stretch run of the end of the regular seasons in hockey. Wrestling is done already. Basketball's got just a handful of weeks left. So the onslaught of tournaments are right around the corner. But we still have some important regular season games to come, including tonight, Biggie and Vermilion on the men's basketball side. North Dakota and South Dakota playing tonight. Fighting Hawks now down to third in the Summit League men's race after their loss to Denver on Saturday afternoon. Feel like we haven't talked any hoops here because football is dominated, and rightfully so with what's happened here over the last 72 to 96 hours. We'll spend some time on that later on in our show. It's a Bison Media Zone Wednesday. I teased it off the top of the show that we'll finally hear from the players. We got an assortment of players earlier this week to chat about the impending move by Bison football to the Mountain West Conference. It's a really wide range of emotions there from guys that were not recruited to be FBS players, and suddenly they are. That's coming up later on in the 10:30 hour. We'll also hear from Bison Defensive Coordinator Grant Olson today. Gio always has some great perspective. I think he's always thought that he's been coaching an FBS team. Now in reality, it's actually here. That will do coming up later on in the program as well. I teased it here. Yes, this is the physical copy of the membership agreement between NDSU and the Mountain West. There's a couple of really interesting tidbits we'll hit here in this first segment coming up in just a couple of minutes that we want to get to. We'll also answer our poll question that we put out yesterday about the top destination that you're most excited about. We had a couple of late write-ins that we did not include on our initial ballot. So we'll disclose that here in the not-too-distant future as well. And I promise in the last half of our Bison Media Zone show, we will get to all of the emails, texts that we have not got to yet so far, because I've just been completely deluged here. We've tried to hit as much information over the last, I think, 2 shows to get to, and I thought that will be the perfect landing segment for that. So we'll spend about 8, 9, 10 minutes, I hope, trying to get to as many comments as we've had over the last few days, because they've been plentiful. Some of them are well-crafted. Some of them are moronic. I'll just say it right now. Others are thought-invoking, I would say. So we got a little bit of everything we'll try to get to later on. I want to start first, though, because we're under a time constraint on showing an Olympic first. Now, again, for people that don't know, if you're not an NBC affiliate, and we obviously are not, we're an ABC affiliate, WDAY is, and we're an offshoot of that with Extra, that we are under massive constraints of what video we can show. You cannot show, and if you're like watch ESPN, like, I want my Olympic update, they can't show anything that happens the day of. That's why if you tune into any national sports network that's not NBC related, that's why you don't see any video. We can show you things that happened 24 hours ago or yesterday. So that falls under this description for the United States-Canada women's hockey game because we had not shown the game. Nothing had happened in the game. We can only show you about 55 seconds of what happened during the game. So we better do it now before the lights go out here at the station. The lights went out on the Canadians right away. The United States scored 3 minutes into the hockey game on that one from Caroline Harvey. This pass from Abby Murphy is going to go down in the history books to Hannah Bilka. That is fantastic. Murphy, who's the Gopher sensation, made it 2-0. It's 4-0. Maybe the highlight of the game where Kendall Coyne-Schofield's son got the puck. I love the dad raises the kid up like Simba in The Lion King. That's my favorite part. Mom loved it on the bench. The Canadians had never been beaten this badly in Olympic women's hockey. Layla Edwards with a fabulous goal. They had never been shut out in women's hockey. They lost 5-rip to the USA. So the United States will be the number 1 seed at the women's hockey quarterfinals, which will start Friday. The USA will play the Italians coming up Friday. The men's hockey tournament begins today. The United States men will play their first game tomorrow. This is the updated medal count. So if you want to be not spoiled, turn the TV off, look away. The Norwegians have surged into the lead with 13 overall medals. They've had a good day already for the United States. They're up to 10. Picked up a couple snowboard medals. Japan and Switzerland round out the top 5. That's your Olympic update. That's literally all we can do. If I showed anything else, they'd turn the lights off and we'd be done. That's how NBC rolls with what they do for their Olympic coverage, which they want you to watch. They certainly don't want to share it, which, they're paying northwards of, I think, $3 billion for the Olympics, so they can pretty much do what they want on how they dictate how it goes. They have one of these contracts that's about 800 pages long for affiliates and what they dictate and what you can and cannot show. But just say this. Nice win for the Americans who've dominated each of their first 4 games. They scored 5 goals in all 4 matchups, 2 shutouts. They have been as completely dominant as one can be so far in the tournament. As I mentioned, the men's hockey tournament starts today. The Finns and Slovakia will play in about 40 minutes to start, and then the hosts will play Sweden. Italy is not known for its men's hockey team. If you host, you get to have a team in every team event. So in curling, you name it, hockey, any of that, you get to host. So the Italians are putting out their best today. Tomorrow, as I mentioned, the men from the United States will play their first game in the afternoon, and the Canadians will play their first game as well. The men's hockey tournament now with the NHLers as part of it is probably the highlight event of the Winter Olympics, and it begins in earnest today. The NHL shut down its season last Thursday, allowed everybody to travel over, and now we go. I think with 3 preliminary games, and then it's on to the medal round after that. So it is a quick deal before the gold medal, which is a week from Sunday. Okay. I wanted to make sure we set aside some time on the contract deal. And our friends and colleagues at the forum pointed out a couple of interesting tidbits here that I wanted to get into as well on the logistics of the deal. And there's a lot of lawyer mumbo-jumbo in here that's important. What's the numbers is what we were interested in. And here you can see it on the screen as well, what's important on this. So the amount of $12.5 payable in 6 installment plans, which we didn't know. We weren't sure if it needed to be update right away. First payment of $7 million due on admission date. That's July 1 of this year. And then the 5 remaining payments of $1.1 due on each successive anniversary of the admission date. So that's first up. Obviously, we knew about the $5 million fee to go from FCS to FBS. Knew that as well. Here's the intriguing part on the college football postseason eligibility and the CFP, because this gets into the weeds here for people, because I mentioned this on social media yesterday, that for people to try to understand exactly how this is going to work out. Once NDSU becomes eligible to participate in the CFP and bowl games, it will receive a $1 million bonus for its first CFP appearance and a 50% conference share of the CFP and football bowl game revenue. NDSU will also receive a 100% share in conference bowl expense reimbursements related to participation in any CFP or bowl game. Let's stop there. NDSU has lost money when they have sent people to Frisco. When they have sent the team and everybody down to Frisco, actually they end up losing money on this. So that's important to note, that they are going to be reimbursed if whatever bowl game they go to, or whatever if they get to a CFP game, they get reimbursed by the league for expenses on that. That's important to note. And obviously we know that they have petitioned to have the appeal heard on them being eligible for a bowl game and the CFP right away. There are some other nibbits in this. If we can keep the graphic up, guys, or the screen, please, of what we have, because I'm going to read some more here. The conference can negotiate new revenue with its linear right partners due to the addition of a new member through the first 6 years of the deal. Remember, the Mountain West just signed a new TV deal. And this is something that I wanted to get into here in just a second. So if said rights holders like Fox, CBS, CW Network want to say, okay, well, now we've got a 10th school, we want to renegotiate on that NDSU would be eligible to get that, there's potential. Now, typically, I could say on the TV side of this, that once networks have a deal, they typically don't go back and renegotiate on said contract. Just does not happen. The NFL is the only one, and they want to get out of their deal because they figure they can make more money on what they're doing right now. There's one last piece of this I want people to read on the screen that's really interesting. And it reads, if the conference contemplates adding another full member, the Mountain West will be required to first invite NDSU to apply for that opportunity, with the understanding that the league is under no obligation to elevate NDSU to full member status. What that means is if the Mountain West decides they want to add another school, they are required to invite NDSU first. But they're under no obligation to elevate them to full member status. Again, so if the Mountain West says, hey, you know what? We're looking for more schools. We want to add another. They are under, in the contract, it says they have to invite NDSU first. That's really, really interesting. Something we did not know prior to getting these sheets of paper. So that's the latest on the contract part of it. And a lot of it I know is for people, it's way over their heads and don't care. There's another part of this. The conference will pay for NDSU's required equipment, approximately $400,000, to include instant replay, in-game video, and coach-to-player communication. Now, they have some of that. That's something I guess the athletic director to talk to us about. Matt will join us, Larson that is, on Friday's show, 9:30, I believe, to chat more about, I think, the the nature of this that we didn't really have on Monday when we had him in the press conference. But that is also part of this deal. Now, yesterday when I was chatting on the contract part of this, our good friend Tim Purden, I'm never going to argue with a lawyer. That's a losing argument. Tim brought up that the media deal was signed a week ago. Networks likely baked in NDSU as part of the deal. You can't tell me the Mountain West Conference didn't let them know. NDSU pushed the price up, but gets none of the money. He said there's no way the Mountain West Conference did not share the NDSU bid with networks. In fact, it's not inconceivable networks drove the NDSU invite. That part, I'm not going to go there. That seems, I don't know if Fox and CBS and the CW are going to say, well, we got to have North Dakota State. I'm not willing. That might be a bridge too far. He says there's no coincidences with the timing. Another email comes in. Do the networks know NDSU is coming to the Mountain West Conference? Would be a great question for the show, Dom. Hard to believe no with the timing. I don't dispute that. I think, obviously, the Mountain West had to, because the deal got signed last week. We don't know when it got agreed upon, but obviously now as we're doing our backtracking on this and who knew when, if what Larson said to us Monday is accurate, that the conversations were heating up in January, then clearly that the networks knew that North Dakota State was likely going to be the 10th school added. So they had to have known on that part. That I'm not disputing. Now, did it say for CBS and Fox and CW, like, oh, we got to have them because the Bison are in? That, I think, is a bridge too far. Well, we can ask. All we can do, I'm not sure we're ever going to get the head of Fox Sports to confirm that to us, but we can certainly ask. That's the intriguing part of the deal. That, to me, and obviously the other language that if the Mountain West decides to expand, that they are obligated to invite NDSU. Again, let me read that. If the conference contemplates adding another full member, the Mountain West will be required to first invite NDSU to apply. Not to get in, to apply. And that's for everything else, for basketball, soccer, baseball, golf, cross-country, track, the whole 9 yards, which that's an expense. If you think the $17.5 million is a lot of money, let's not even get going on what the cost of sending volleyball to Albuquerque and San Jose on a Thursday and a Saturday. Talk to UND about how that went in the Big Sky, right? When they had their athletes leaving on a Tuesday and got back the following Monday, when they had to go to Cheney or they had to go to Portland or Sacramento or Flagstaff. That went over real well for the years that they were in the Big Sky Conference. That was a money drain. There's no other way to say it. More emails, reaction. We'll do it coming up in Bison Media Zone later on in the show. Again, you'll hear from some of the Bison players, Nathan Hayes, Donovan Woolen, Griffin Empey, Keenan Wilson coming up later on in the show. Also on our program today, it is Wednesday. We can celebrate with Drew Trafton. I feel like we've barely mentioned the Super Bowl because everything has been so Mountain West heavy. But there's some other news. Drew was here last Wednesday when the Bobby Hauck news broke, and Bobby was out of a job for all of about 4 days. Yesterday announced he's the defensive coordinator at Illinois. Hauck said he wouldn't be a head coach again. He was right. He's a defensive coordinator. We'll chat about that coming up in just a few minutes. At 9:35, great friend of the show, Thompson girls basketball coach Jason Brend will join us. The Tommies are right at the top of girls Class A basketball. Remember, the Class A this year being played in Jamestown. We'll discuss the season for the Tommies. I don't know if he made it to Nashville. See his good buddy Brent Vegan win a national championship. We'll ask him coming up at 9:35. And Grant Olson will be with us as well at 10 o'clock, North Dakota State defensive coordinator, to give us the lowdown on preparation underway now, how this team and his defense gets ready for facing some schools they have not seen before. It's one thing, they knew what South Dakota State was going to do. They knew what North Dakota or Illinois State. Now it's preparing for Air Force and the triple option, or Hawaii, Wyoming, New Mexico. You name it, just a whole different deal. That's coming up at 10 o'clock. And as I mentioned, BMZ today as well at 10:35. That and a heck of a lot more here on a busy Wednesday morning. We'll take our first break. Hot Mic is off and rolling. We're back after this on WDAY Extra, KSFL, KMBN, and Inforum.com.
The biggest Seahawks, Sounders, and Mariners fan in the FM area. It's time for Views with Drew.
So we're going to need to change that intro to now reigning Super Bowl champion.
Hey, I'm great with that, dude. Isn't it just like the most wonderful Wednesday morning you've ever experienced?
Well,
ever?
Here's the thing. I feel like we've spent about 5 seconds on it, which is crazy considering we had two Bison
two starters who like
Bowl.
Honestly, Dom, like the unsung hero of that game was Jalen Sundell.
It was really good.
Like, nobody is saying it, but everybody. like their path to a Patriots win in that game was Milton Williams just like going like destroying the interior offensive line, and Jalen Sundell ate his lunch, and like nobody's talking about it. He like had a stellar game. He had one holding call that took back a touchdown at the end, but that was in garbage time. Like, I mean, he absolutely deserves an immense amount of credit for that game.
Both, I mean, I know there are many times that Kenneth Walker's running off the left side and Zabel's out there. I mean, Charles Cross is killing guys over there.
Yeah, Gray like just had a like stellar game as well. I mean, everybody was talking about it. Again, the interior of that offensive line is going to get destroyed in this game, and they stood. I mean, they right away it was evident. Like the first play, Walker goes for 10. You know, it was like, okay, let's go. You know, and like, and then they just set up for success. He had 130 yards on the ground. I mean, when your running back's the MVP of the Super Bowl, like credit goes to the offensive line.
Absolutely.
And that's like those guys deserve a ton of credit.
So the range of emotions, give it to us for you on Sunday night.
Oh, it was stressful. Like, I mean, like leading up to the game itself, like I was quietly confident all week. Like last week on your show before the Houck news broke, I said, I think it's going to be a close game. I could see three outcomes, one being a Seattle blowout and then a close win for both teams. So I was stressed out. And then when Nwosu had the pick six, I leapt out of the chair and yelled, like, they're going to win the Super Bowl. Like at that point, it was like I was doing the math. My in-laws had texted me like the play before that, and they're like, I think you're safe. And I was like, no, we need one more stop. Like I've seen this movie before. Like we need one more stop. And then he got the pick six, and it was really cool. The most emotional thing for me was that was the first time my kids, I got to experience a Super Bowl with my kids. And I remember in 2013, like I got to watch that game with my parents, which was really cool. And there's so few opportunities in life when you get to experience, like, see childlike wonder on your parents' face. And that for me, like I saw it on both my mom and my dad and my aunt. And my dad and my aunt were like OG Seahawks fans, like had gone to a game the first year of existence. Their parents had season tickets. Like my aunt still lives in Seattle. So that was really special. But then I kind of got to see that reflected in my own kids' eyes on Sunday.
That's cool.
And there was this moment, like and it was really cool because this playoff run, my daughter really got into it. And so it was just really special. And so that experience, it was like, wow, that is, you know, like just in a 10-year time frame, like I've gone from being the kid experiencing that with my parents to being the parent experiencing that with my kids.
That's really neat. I'm glad you shared that. Our friend Dave in Minot emailed me this morning and wanted me to share this. And this is really good. This is deep dive stuff. John Schneider, St. Thomas alum, by the way, the best general manager in the NFL. And then he spelled out a couple of trades here for people that don't know this, of the trades that the Seahawks made to set themselves up to do this. The Russell Wilson trade might be one of the greatest of all time. Gave the Seahawks Charles Cross at left tackle, Devin Witherspoon, that guy worked out all right. Derek Hall and Boye Mafe. That's the first one.
And Boye Mafe is a University of Minnesota grad.
I mean, that alone, if you look at it, what the Seahawks got, and obviously there were picks, and the Seahawks drafted Cross and Witherspoon and those other two guys. I mean, that is...
All those guys played a huge role in the game.
Because we obviously know what happened with Russ in Denver, and basically it might be over for Russ now. That built the first part of a ridiculous trade. The second one was the DK Metcalf trade.
Deal.
The DK Metcalf trade, the Seahawks got Gray Zabel, the draft rights to the Zabel, and Emanwari, who ended up being phenomenal for them on the back end.
Yeah, he's the only, and I know this is getting played up a little bit, but he's the only general manager to ever win a Super Bowl with a completely different head coach and a completely different roster with the same organization. And it's just like, wow, you know, like, he deserves his flowers. And I sat here, like, the day of the Russell Wilson trade, you know, I came back on that next day afterward and in this chair at this microphone and was like, I don't know what's going on. And boy,
Schneider did.
He certainly did. And he's
and then, by the way,
incredible.
and Dave continues, signed free agent Dexter Lawrence, Cooper Kupp, obviously Sam Darnold. They got Rashid Shaheed at the deadline. I mean, that's what we're talking about for how you win and how you win consistently in the NFL, you have to have great ownership, which the Seahawks have had. They have to have great general managers. Certainly they've done that. And they hired Mike McDonald, which is another home run.
Okay, and that is, to me, like that was the great sin of the media narratives this Super Bowl cycle. And I get it. Like, I listened to Tirico and Collinsworth a couple days before the game with Dan Patrick, and they were saying, like, the story of the Super Bowl for the casual football fan needs to be, can the new Patriots win the old Patriot way? Totally understand that. But there was so little attention paid. And I think part of it's because Vrabel won Coach of the Year, deservingly so, taking a 4-win team to the Super Bowl. But Mike McDonald is a special coach, and he was hired by John Schneider to be the antithesis of the Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay in that division. But the carryover to the rest of the NFL is what people saw on Super Bowl Sunday. And I think if people saw the Rams game, 2 weeks before, that was offense, and those teams have played 3 times. And so that, and that's genius versus genius in a lot of ways. But Mike McDonald is this, you saw his defensive genius on display in the Super Bowl. He did that the past few years in Seattle and the few years prior to that in Baltimore. Like, he's a special guy, and I think he needs some recognition, and I hope that continues for him.
He was on Jimmy Kimmel the other night. That was pretty good, and he's going to be leading the parade later today. We're short on time here, so let me get a couple other things. So last Wednesday we're here when the Bobby Houck news broke. He was out of a job for all of 4 days?
Yeah.
How's that gone over for Grizz fans
initially,
here?
I wasn't very upset by it because I was like, I could see where that happens where, coach is available, and he had said he just didn't want to be a head coach. But the more that's come out, in the past 24 hours, 48 hours, you see these interviews with Illinois' head coach
with Bielema,
talking about, days before Houck announced anything, that we've got our defense set. We know the style we're bringing in. We know the guy we're bringing in. Houck retiring instead of resigning, which triggered his entire contract. Like, he had a clause in his contract where dude would have to pay back his entire salary to the University of Montana had he taken another job.
If he resigned, right?
Yes.
Which
but he retired.
And remember, we read that press release twice over when it came out.
And so,
last week.
I think that the university probably would have, for years of service, for what he accomplished, they would have worked something out.
They wouldn't have fought him on that, right?
And so, but it just feels really gross.
Feels icky now. Is exactly
now.
right. Yep.
And so I think it'll feel really, really bad if he starts picking players off.
Right,
and so we'll see, because they're in that portal window. So far, that hasn't happened. And I think that's where it goes from feeling slimy to feeling like gross and like just flat out like this is, having anger boil up. And so I'm, obviously he didn't want to be at Montana. And that's fine. Like, good riddance. Thanks for the good years. Thanks for the good times.
Yeah.
But and I'm looking forward to what's next. But yeah, it could go. It feels bad.
Ken Haslam, the Montana AD, I thought had some really, eye-opening comments about NDSU's move to the Mountain West. I don't know if you saw what he had to say,
so too.
Which I thought was well-crafted. And frankly, it's like, well, we're going to take a wait and see. But we know we're tied with Montana State, that there's nothing we can do unless the state signs off on us doing this together if there's anything to ever come down the pipe.
Absolutely. And I think that NDSU and this is a really bad analogy to invoke right now, is the canary in the coal mine, where it's like, let's see. They're like, they're going to be the bellwether. Like, let's see how they do it, because they, there are so many parallels and similarities. Like, let's see how that goes. But if, like I heard your first segment, like, if NDSU in Fargo and North Dakota is actually a desirable media market despite the size, just because of the oomph they bring.
Correct.
Montana's in the same boat, and so it's like maybe there is hope there for that, down the road, and maybe Montana State could be that trigger point that brings NDSU into full alignment with the Mountain West. Like, who knows how that looks, but I thought that was interesting as well.
What he said,
but there's going to be, I think there's going to be some serious regression in terms of on-field quality.
I agree with that.
Of NDSU leaving, like, they were who everyone was chasing, and they had to elevate, and now that's not going to be the case. And so I'm really curious over the next 2-3 seasons, if these schools don't make the jump as well, what that looks like. Because they might just decide, oh, we're gonna be just comfortable in whatever the FCS becomes.
We got to go. Matt Larson said Monday the FCS will be fine. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know. I'm not saying that NDSU was keeping it afloat, but there's just to your point, everyone was reaching for them. Montana State's biggest deal was to get to the Bison. The Jack, same thing. Now that that's not there,
now that you don't have to spend tens of millions of dollars.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's
real. Yeah. Again, if I'm waking up in Brookings or if I'm in Bozeman and Missoula, I don't know how you feel right now.
Yeah,
what do you got?
Sorry, just before we go, I just want to say I heard from so many people the last few days. Coworkers that I haven't heard from for years, friends from growing up, and it wasn't like that in 2013. And I don't know why necessarily, but like this was really humbling and really great. And I got my nephew who lives in the cities, not a Seahawks fan. Like I got this in the mail from him. It's like just this great drawing.
That's awesome.
Like
Dear
talk
Uncle
about a
Drew,
really good drawing.
Seahawks.
You know,
that's
the kid's 6. And
that's fantastic.
Yeah, like just incredible. And so it's just been so heartwarming, and I've gotten a lot of people reaching out on social media that watch this show.
Yeah.
And just thank you. Like it means a lot. It really does. To like you just feel seen.
Yeah.
And it makes this experience, which is really joyous, all the better. Like it's just really, really cool.
You got to get that frame, man. That's fantastic.
Oh yeah,
that's
for sure,
really cool.
for sure.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
You can spike the football for the next 6-7 months
today.
on that. Exactly.
Yeah.
Drew Trafton joining us each and every Wednesday at 9:20. We'll break. We come back. Jason Brend will join us. Thompson girls basketball head coach as the Tommies are surging again in Class A. We'll do that when Hot Mike returns after this. All right, welcome back, everybody. Wednesday show rolls on. Bison Defensive Coordinator Grant Olson joined us about 20 minutes time. We mentioned last week before the world blew up, we're down the stretch run here of the high school basketball season. We're going to check in on various teams, get updated as we get ready for the tournaments to begin. Last week we were got our fill on the Flasher girls, who are having a dynamite season in Class B. In Class A, no surprises near the top there. South Prairie, really good. They've got a Division I player on their roster. The Thompson girl, no surprise that Thompson is really good. Great to have a friend of the show, Jason Brend, back with us. Thompson 16-3 on the year, ranked number 2 in Class A girls basketball, and he joins us here. Now, people know that you are a proud Buxton native. I have to ask first off, what the emotions were like last month seeing your old teammate win a national championship?
Amazing. He's been in the game a couple times prior and not got that win. But, Brent is just a phenomenal coach, as everybody around here knows, and everybody, especially in Buxton, knows. And what a feeling. I wish so badly could have got down there to watch it in Nashville, but watching on TV was pretty special as well. I got
a chance to see Viggs, Molly, and Jake. I didn't get to see Mom and Dad. That's the only thing I didn't get a chance to do when I was down there. He seemed very calm's not the right word because Viggs is always even keel, but just that this. After the game, though, I thought in the interviews he actually let his guard down and enjoyed the fact that they finally got over the hump. Yeah, he's a very humble and very, like you said, calm is a good word for him because he just controls his emotions so well, during games. And, it's probably the biggest moment of his career right there, winning that thing. And, he just handled it so well. So it's great to see him get that emotion out a little bit because he certainly earned it. Especially how that game played out as well. It could have gone about 8 different ways. All right, so here it is. It's middle of February. Thompson's good again. Is it the same old, or what's different or unique about this year's team? Yeah, it's a little of both. We have some kids back, obviously, who've been playing for a few years who have been really good for us during that time. And, they're continuing to have success for us. But, we had to shuffle the deck a little bit here this year with some new kids coming in, stepping into some new roles as usual. And I think as time's gone by, we've kind of started to figure out our identity a little bit since Christmas break especially. And, you get some new kids stepping in, Jenna Schwabe and Abby Olson. Those are kids who have kind of been part-timers a little bit here, and they're starting to define their roles a little bit more. And, a kid who stepped in the starting lineup this year, Andy Schwab, has really picked up her game at that point for us as well. Addie Sage, everybody knows as well, just for how her prowess has gone. How has she elevated her game this season?
She's amazing. She's always been a great offensive player. It started off, she's a great shooter. So then she worked on getting to the rim. Then she could get to the rim really well. She's really been working on her defense and just her instincts and her knowledge of the game. She's just a really savvy player, and she continues to take steps forward.
Now, last week you had a battle with Carrington. They got you there. Andy Broad's a great coach. You've known forever. What is it about that team? And is that something, hey, we'll see you down the road?
Yeah, I hope so. The way things are looking, we'll be on opposite sides of the bracket here in the region. And, to play them again, it would have to most likely be in a championship game of the region, which would be great. They're a very disciplined team. They got a little bit of length. They're not tall, but they got length, and they defend well, and they know how to limit your possessions by controlling the scoreboard, the clock. And, they're just a really great team, and we've had trouble with them both times this year. So we'd love to get another chance just to, see if we can make some adjustments. But for the most part, you got to give them all the credit in the world because, like you said, Broughton's a heck of a coach.
I got to go back here on stage for a minute that she's now the all-time scoring record holder at your school, which I thought Mackenzie Hughes would have that maybe forever. Just how Mackenzie Hughes is a great player. She's played at UND now. What does that say about what she's and what Sage can do beyond this? I know we've had her on the show that their next level is ahead for her.
Yeah. It's amazing. Mackenzie Hughes was phenomenal. They're very different types of players. Mackenzie was more of a get-to-the-rim type player, used her quickness and such, where Addie's maybe a pure shooter. But to break that record was pretty amazing. I had some individuals around here who kept asking me, is she getting close? Is she getting close? And I just kind of kept putting it off, thinking, I don't know. I really don't know. Well, finally, we added it up one day, and she was right there. So it's pretty amazing, the thing about it is we have another girl on our team, Kaya Hurst, who's about 15 points away from surpassing what was Mackenzie's record as well. It's nice to have a little 1-2 punch like that too. And we certainly can go deeper than the 1-2, but those two do quite a bit of the scoring for us.
How is that to have that kind of leadership and how that filters down to the rest of your team?
It's great. And the kids understand that. And what's great about those two kids with Sage and Hurst is they understand that it's a team game and we need everybody to do their parts to play, and they're great leaders that way. Everybody gets along so well on the team this year. I think this year's team gets along much better than we did last year even, and I can't complain a whole lot about that. But we've got 6 seniors, and all 6 of them really contribute with the leadership role this year. We had a couple who come off the bench in Nora Goulet and Abby Olson, who they're not afraid to step up and say something if it has to be said as well. So it really is we spread the wealth a little bit with leadership this year. And I know those two, they really have that great opportunity of saying, hey, we've been there before, so this is what we need to do.
You play everybody. That's no surprise on how you schedule. You played South Prairie. Obviously, you played Carrington. You played Valley. You played Devil's Lake. How much does that help, you think, for this time, and especially what's to come in the next 2 to 3 weeks?
Yeah, that's I like to think nobody could ever say we shy away from any opponent. Just in a back-to-back weekend here, a few weeks back, we played Valley City one night and Turtle Mountain the next. And, at the time they were 2 and 3 in the state. And, we opened up second game of the year or something with, like you said, South Prairie. So we like to play them. The thing about playing good teams is they kind of exploit your weaknesses. They kind of point out areas where you need to continue to improve and get better. And, as coaches, we maybe already have a decent feel for those types of things, but it makes it more obvious for the players. So practices get a lot better. It elevates the level of intensity after those games.
All right, you're going to hate me. I'm going to get the cart way before the horse. But the region tournament this year, I believe, is at Devil's Lake. If it's you guys in Carrington, you might have to get there like on Monday to get a seat if it ends up being that case, right?
Yeah, well, you know how I feel about talking about
that. But that could be, I guess the point is the environment could be amazing if that ends up being, first off, they always get great crowds there. I know when Four Winds plays there on the boys' side, that could be amazing if it ends up being you guys in that kind of environment, which that's no different. You guys have always played in big-time crowds and big-time environments.
Yeah, it is. And there's multiple teams that could end up in that game. But obviously, I guess to respond to it, that is our goal.
Yeah.
We do want to get to that point. So if we're achieving our goals, and if it ended up playing against the Carrington or Devil's Lake or anybody for that matter, if we could get there, I think it's going to be a pretty good atmosphere. I will admit that one point in time, it was kind of playing on Devil's Lake home court. I don't know how I feel about that, but when you start adding more West teams into our region, it made sense. And And, we're just excited to get there. We kind of got through the grind of the season. Now it's kind of wrapping up for that tournament time. So it's really, really close now.
I got to ask you about that. Like you mentioned going through like the dog days, which I imagine is what, mid-January to early February. How do you guide through that knowing, okay, the light is at the end of the tunnel? What everyone's excited for is almost here now.
Yeah, it's not easy. It seems like that's always where, maybe kids start getting a little more frustrated with their shots not falling, things like that. Maybe some parents get a little more disappointed because their kid's not playing as much. I mean, just everything kind of comes together at that point in time. And we've been very fortunate not to have those types of issues. But, that's another area where scheduling these tough teams throughout the season, scattering them out throughout the season, you always have something to look up for. And, ever since we've gone to this 3 divisions of basketball, you don't have opponents that you can overlook anymore.
Correct.
And, it really helps when you have to focus from a game-to-game, process, and instead of looking down the calendar a little bit further.
Volleyball went through it for the first time this fall, Jace. What did you get feedback-wise on that? And now as we're near the end of year 3 for basketball 3 classes, what did you hear from volleyball and any correlation what basketball went through the first time around?
I didn't hear a whole lot. I think the only thing that really was mentioned, at least that I heard, was the times of the games, at the state tournament for volleyball, because they play pretty early in the morning in some cases. But, I think at the same time you get to that state tournament, you're pretty happy to be there, and you'd probably play anytime they told you. But, I just think it's really getting there. Volleyball being the first year, they're going to go through some of those growing pains that we maybe have already gotten through a little bit of. And, I think it's going to be a good situation for them as well.
I can't believe we're nearing year 3 at the end of this, because it felt like we talked about it for 30 years. The fact that now we're on the back end of 3 seems kind of crazy, right?
It does, and I'm a processor. I need time to think things through. As you know, I wasn't necessarily on board right away. But boy, it's really been good for us, and I think it's been good for our state.
It's great to see you, bud. Thanks so much for the time. Congrats on a great run, and we'll talk when we get to March, okay?
All right, appreciate it, Dom.
Good to see you, bud. There he goes, Jason Brend, head coach of the Thompson girls basketball team. We mentioned 16-3 on the year, ranked number 2 in the latest poll. It'll be a new poll that comes out later today. Thompson has Devils Lake, another biggie coming up on Friday, and then they end the regular season next week at home with Wahpeton, and then it's on to region tournament time. Again, the Region 2A tournament will be held at Devils Lake. In the past years, it's been at the Betty, but at this time, that's the end of the regular season in the Summit League. It's not available, which is too bad because we've established this. The Betty is a tremendous high school venue for that level. When they've hosted the state tournament up there, it was the first time we were up there in 2019 was overwhelming success. They brought it back the following year. They did it one more time, and then scheduling hasn't worked out now with the advance of 3 classes. If they can somehow get back in the rotation, it will be fantastic. Jamestown has this year's version of the girls' Class A coming up in early March. We're overdue for a break. We'll get caught up here. We'll wrap up our first hour. Grant Olson coming up in hour 2. A lot of Bison football, Mountain West chatter coming up in our second hour on a Wednesday morning, which returns after this. All right, wrapping up our first hour. Grant Olson coming up here in just a minute. I want to read something. Andrew Holton, colleague at the Brookings Register, visited with Justin Sell, South Dakota State athletic director, was asking him about the Dakota marker ramifications and going forward with playing the Bison. Sell said, I want to play them in the non-conference every year. I will gladly do that, but I think we'll all still find a way to play. And who knows, maybe 4 or 5 years down the road, all of us Dakota schools will all be playing again and reserve a spot for the Dakota marker. Sell said eventually NDSU and SDSU will be back together playing at the same level. He believes that at some point, conferences like the Mountain West will be left out of the college football playoff discussions because the power conferences like the ACC, Big Ten, Big 12, and SEC will want to have an exclusive playoff. He said when that happens, he believes those conferences will want to team up with the top conferences of the FCS like the Missouri Valley and the Big Sky. Now, on that point, we've talked about this as well quite a few times on what could potentially happen down the road and will the break off, right? We've talked about how many times that they're going to break away and do their own thing. Yeah, maybe. Right now, they're about to start a new contract with ESPN, the CFP that is, that starts this year, 2026. That's why they were under the gun to see if they wanted to expand from 12 to 16 or 24. Who the bleep knows? as it is written now, the group of 6 is guaranteed a spot in the dance. One way or the other, they have one in there. Now, if it decides to change and they blow up a contract, which happens all the time, then, yeah, to the Sells point, that could very well happen. But the point is, NDSU did not want to be at that FCS level. They did not want to be left out of the party. If you're at the FBS, you're in the party, right? You're in that group. So no matter what happens at the top, at the upper reaches of college football, right, with those top 40 programs, that programs from 41, right, let's say top 40, from 41 to 100, NDSU wanted to be in that, and they are now. So if they decide they're going to have their own playoff, then NDSU's part of that group. They're in that second tier. And how long do we hear that? We want to be in that second tier of football, because they didn't believe FCS was that anymore. And I don't disagree with them, because of whatever may come in 27, 28, 29, 30. Now they're in that. And who's to say, would they bring up FCS? I don't know. Maybe. Why would they want to share? And this goes back to the whole FBS argument. Why would they want to share with those 60 if they can say, hey, we've got our 60 teams. This is what we're going forward. And then if you're an SDSU in Montana State, Montana, you're sitting here like I was in 12th grade, left out of the party. That's the fear. That's what NDSU didn't want to do. That's why they didn't wait. That's why there was no transition year. That's why they decided to go. If that happens, I remain skeptical on that, because I've heard it now for at least 10 years that they were going to go break away and do their own thing. They still need teams to schedule. You know what I mean? Like if the top 40 go and do that, they're going to play each other every bleeping week. I don't think anybody would sign up for that. That's just me. I think they still want to have an FCS game, and I think they really like having a group of 6 game. Even if they play 9 league games, they like having, hey, we'll play somebody else. Like if I'm Minnesota, we'll play somebody from the Big 12 or the ACC. We're going to definitely play an FCS team, and we're going to play a group of 6 team. Absolutely, they want to do that. I don't know, like Minnesota, Rutgers, Maryland, give me some, Purdue. You want to do that? I don't think they want to play Alabama or Vanderbilt every week. I don't think they want that. We'll see. We'll break. We come back. Hour 2 begins. Bison Defensive Coordinator Grant Olson will join us on Now Prepping for Life as a FBS coordinator. That's coming up when we start Hour 2 after this.
This is Hot Mike.
Hot Mike.
On the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
Welcome back, everybody. Hour 2, ready to rock and roll here on this Wednesday morning. Bison Media Zone coming up about a half hour to hear from some of the Bison players on the news that NDSU is now a Mountain West school. That's coming up in about a half hour's time. Really excited to start our second hour with a guy that we've had many a time on the show, and now I can call him an FBS coordinator. North Dakota State Defensive Coordinator Grant Olson joins us here to start our second hour. How's that suit you when you hear that?
Honestly, pretty darn excited about it. I think it's been a goal for all of us, I think, at some point. I mean, who doesn't want to just in general compete at what's listed as the highest level possible? I mean, it's been a lot of fun to sit there and think, man, we have a new goal of going to the college football playoff. That's really exciting. I'm ready for the next challenge personally. I cannot wait. And thrilled.
All right, so let's backtrack. And we were visiting a little bit off air. When did you get the first inklings that this may happen?
Well, I think that the conversations probably, like Matt Larson talked about in the press conference, probably 3 or 4 years ago, whatever that was. You know, I remember kind of hearing about it then. So it's someone that's always been on the major back burner in the back of your mind. Okay, if we change conferences, how are we going to change recruiting and some of that stuff? But realistically, I mean, maybe in January, probably heard the same rumors and that everybody else was hearing. So anyway, I wasn't completely in the dark. I was maybe 1.5 steps out of the dark is the way I guess I'll describe it.
This is an interesting position for you. You're a former player. You won 3 national championships as a player at the FCS level. You experienced the highest of highs at this division. Did you get a sense, and then as a coach as well, you and I have talked about this, was Was it time to be done with FCS football? Did you feel like there was nothing left to do? I'm interested in your thoughts, both as a former player and now as a coach.
Yeah, no, great question. Just as a former player, obviously winning those national championships and being part of great teams is certainly a lot of fun and something that, nobody can take away from you. It's a once-in-a-lifetime experience sort of a thing. And now that we've had a chance to do that, just me personally, the way that I just truly feel is let's go to the next challenge. There's more out there. There's new mountains to climb. Let's go climb them. Let's go compete against people that are labeled as being at a better level. But let's go find out if that level actually is better, and let's challenge ourselves. So me personally, just as a coach, a former player, a competitor, let's see this program go and try to do amazing things against the best of the best, and let's see what happens. So overall, just all around really excited. And the same thing with all the former players I've talked to. They are absolutely thrilled about it.
So now what has been on the agenda here the last couple of days? Was your phone ringing off the hook from players saying, I can play FBS football? What's this been like?
Well, definitely recruiting. Recruiting. A lot of guys really excited about it. Just, hey, coach, man, that is fantastic. So all of a sudden, some of these guys were going from, man, I've got 2 offers, maybe NDSU and somebody else, and they're thinking they're FCS players, and then they're calling up saying, coach, do you believe I'm good enough? And yes, I personally, as the linebacker coach, think you are good enough, and I want to recruit you, and in 3 years, I want to go play in the college football playoff. Are you interested in that? Does it sound good? Just, coach, that'd be my dream. I can't wait. I love NDSU. It's been the response from multiple kids from multiple states and backgrounds and positions and all those things. So anyway, it tells me kids are excited about it. For me, as far as the last couple of days, we've been doing a lot of recruiting stuff, but it is starting to get ahead on, okay, let's get the film in on all these new opponents. And we still obviously don't know the schedule yet, but we got to start getting to know these people and get familiar with them. And that's going to take some time. The benefit of being in the Mountain West is, man, if you're New Mexico, you have to now get familiar with a couple new teams. We have to get familiar with 9 new teams. Well, that's going to take some work, and that's going to be a lot of film study. So there's some major challenges coming up for coaches for sure.
Is there now doors open recruiting-wise to guys that maybe you couldn't get to? Now you can because you're an FBS school?
Yeah, I think so. I absolutely think so. I think there's some guys that I've heard this from multiple people, whether it's from out of state or it is out of region, specifically North Dakota and the upper Midwest. Typically I think people looked at NDSU and the other Dakota schools in the Missouri Valley and said, man, that football is just as good as the football in the MAC. Well, kids from Chicago, I don't think feel that way. Kids from Denver don't necessarily feel that way. I think that they saw a difference between the Mountain West and the Big Sky and the Missouri Valley. So now all of a sudden, some of those kids that, hey, coach, I love my experience at Fargo. I loved everything about it. I just have an opportunity to play at a higher level, so I'm going to take it. Now all of a sudden, let's go get those guys. And I can think of a couple in particular just through different years that maybe we lost a recruiting battle with. And I'm really excited to go pick some fights with some other guys on the recruiting trail and go get some of these top players.
Does this mean you go further west, Grant, recruiting-wise?
That's a great question. We've asked that same thing. I think that we got to be really careful about changing too much in the recruiting and deviating from what we've been successful. I'm like, I don't care what anybody says. Logan Kopp was a good enough linebacker to win the national championship for us, but the Mountain West championship, Logan Kopp could have made a difference without a doubt. Same thing with Donovan Woolen, for instance. So I'm sitting there well, why are we going to change? Why are we going to do something different when we're already getting players that can play at that level? I've seen bad things happen when you try to recruit every state in the country. You don't recruit any of the states in the country. Let's continue to dominate our region. Let's continue to get those top players. And if we need to go find 1 or 2 guys, and then I think we have those conversations. But we're not going to make a drastic overhaul by any stretch. Again, the minute we do that, we're going to be in trouble. We need to continue to get Jackson Dutton-Heifer. Jackson Dutton-Heifer, with him as your starting defensive tackle, you can win a Mountain West championship. There's no doubt in my mind. And I want to continue to prove that to everybody in this state that kid from Mandan, we're going to keep recruiting and we're going to keep developing and we're going to keep winning.
Let me ask you about your current roster because they were recruited to be FCS players. They're now FBS. How does that change with this current team to get ready now for what comes at the end of August?
Honestly, I think it's just a new level of excitement. I think it's a new chip on our shoulder. Me personally, if you just asked, hey, in the linebacker room specifically, are those kids athletic enough to go and play? And I'm like, well, from my time at Wyoming, I think they are. Absolutely. And to me, it's an extra sense of urgency for us, and that's already a standard of our program. But hey, guys, we're going to be going against a little bit better talent week in and week out, specifically speed on the perimeter. So let's go get after it. We got morning runs tomorrow morning for the skill guys. Show up a little bit earlier and let's go. So anyway, in the sense that I'm getting from all the guys as coach, we cannot wait for this challenge. I haven't had one player bat an eye or anything. I mean, they want to get after it.
You mentioned your time at Wyoming, and I know it wasn't super long, but what do you remember about Mountain West football? And the skill level comes to mind, Grant. The guys on the outside, wide receivers, defensive back, the speed there. What do we not know that you know about Mountain West football that you can share?
Well, I don't think, like, for instance, okay, I mean, NDSU, we've had Christian Watson and Bryce Lance. Oh, my goodness. Those receivers can play anywhere in the country. Yep. Everybody would have been really excited to have those guys. Well, there's a few more of those in the conference overall. You see them more on a week in and week out basis instead of maybe 2 or 3 times a year like you do in the Valley. Now, we've been fortunate that we see those guys every single day. So to me, I'm not afraid of anybody. I'm like, hey, listen, like corners, listen, guys, every week, let's plan on going against the Bryce Lance. Well, you do it every single day in practice. We're going to be A-okay. That's not an issue for me. But anyway, just a little bit more consistent as far as maybe one of those really elite high-level wide receivers go. As far as offensive line, same thing. I'm like, guys, you can't go against a better offensive line than what we've been going against every single day. So if we can continue to battle NDSU's offensive line, we're going to be in great shape. So anyway, yeah, the week in and week out is definitely going to improve, and we're excited about that. But I also want to be really clear that I'm like, hey, there's not a million Gray Zables in any conference in this country. So if you can go against that guy, you know, and again, I'm trying to build confidence in our players, and I do have confidence in those guys, and we're going to be okay.
I was just going to say, well, how much of a public relations have you had here over the last 72 hours? This happens Sunday night. You have 2 guys win the Super Bowl, starting for the Seattle Seahawks. It's a pretty good run for NDSU here over the last couple of days.
Yeah, it's a pretty special couple of days overall. Yes, any program that can produce 2 starters, not just guys on the roster. We're talking starters, difference makers on a Super Bowl winning team. That's pretty darn special. So anyway, yeah, I mean, it's easy now. I'm calling offensive line recruits from my particular area in the Twin Cities and said, hey, what do you think about playing at a really high level of football and you're getting drafted and making a roster and going to win a Super Bowl? Because if that's something that sounds like a lot of fun, please come up to NDSU. You know, that's an easy sell. And I'm not using that just for the offensive linemen. Of course, I'm saying that to everybody. Hey, if these kids can do it, well, guess what? This next year, it's going to be Bryce Lance and Cole Payton and some of our other guys that got good opportunities. So we're going to keep selling that message of come to NDSU, get a great education, win a bunch of football games, have a great experience, make lifelong friends, and then go to the NFL and win a Super Bowl. And yeah, now it continues to be legitimized, the fact that those 2 guys have done it. So we appreciate them a ton. They're making the recruiting a lot easier.
On the, I guess off of that, we badly want to know what the schedule is. How badly you guys want to know what it's going to be here coming up soon?
I'm pretty anxious to find out for sure. You know, we were kind of talking about it just now. We were watching a couple of recruits and ranking some guys out. And anyway, anybody's guess is as good as mine. I have no idea. And again, no insider information. But yeah, just excited to find out, excited to go to new locations, excited to play new teams, excited to battle against different coaches. It's going to be a really fun challenge.
Now, in your past travels, either as a coach or you were, not caddying for Amy, did you make it to Hawaii? Did you guys get out there at all?
I never did because it was always during spring ball and it was always right around Easter. So it was just like there's no point trying to make it out for a small weekend just to turn around and fly back. I have been to Hawaii twice.
Okay.
Just family taken there. So I've been there and I know that long flight. So I'm just very well prepared what that's going to be like. And anyway, yeah, again, can't wait. Like, again, once in a lifetime experience. And hopefully we're going to do it every other year. So our kids are going to get a chance to go to Hawaii 2 times in their life. That's phenomenal.
How about any other states? Have you got everything? Will you get any other ones checked off now, or are these all repeats that you've been to?
All repeats for me, but a couple of them will end up being new areas and new stadiums. Like when I was at Wyoming, we didn't play San Jose State. We didn't play Hawaii, so I didn't play those teams. Went to New Mexico, obviously Laramie a lot. Air Force did that. But like Northern Illinois, well, that's going to be new, fun, and exciting. I've never been to El Paso, even though we've been to Texas a number of times. So that's going to be fun, new, and exciting. So anyway, I was watching highlights of your show the other day, watching all the cool stadiums. I mean, playing in Allegiant down in Vegas is going to be really cool. I cannot wait.
You mentioned Air Force, and obviously they do the triple option. So you get the shakes thinking about Wofford and Georgia Southern again from those games when you played against those 2 teams?
Good question. And I'm not familiar enough with Air Force to say the offense is the exact same or different. If the offense is the exact same, honestly, good chance that we rinse and repeat on that game plan. It worked well, right? But they've adjusted. I mean, that was so long ago, and college football certainly has changed a couple of things. So we'll need some different defenses against them than maybe what we did that many years ago. But regardless, just even how to go about the process, I have a binder that's got notes from both of those Georgia Southern and Wofford games from the coaches that they had put together, and I made copies of when I was at G at Wyoming. So I've been preparing for these triple option guys for a long time. So anyway, I feel confident about it. But yeah, definitely got some nerves too. I mean, just someone you haven't seen in a long time. So fun challenge, can't wait.
I got to ask about, you have some guys that are already here that were fresh, that recruited as part of your 26 class that enrolled early. How much Donovan did that a couple years ago? How much is now you have that blueprint that can get you on the field this fall?
I think it's huge. I really do. It's something that we previously didn't do a whole lot. And I think we've become a lot better at it as coaches of just making sure that these guys aren't homesick. I mean, it's not easy showing up to college with 3 other guys doing the same thing as you. It's a lot easier to show up in June and there's 25 new guys going through the exact same experience. So anyway, we've just gotten better as coaches, which has definitely helped that transition. But what I saw that happen with Donovan is all of a sudden Donovan got an extra 500 reps before his freshman year, and that made a big difference. Not only that year, but really this year. Like, Donovan was an all-conference player as a sophomore, but he really was a junior because he came early. Like, that, I think, was a huge reason why he had so much success. So anyway, I hate taking kids away from their high school basketball season or hockey or wrestling or state baseball or whatever the case may be. But if guys aren't doing those winter and spring sports, it's becoming a really good idea to enroll early.
You got another linebacker added to your room from Cornell and Keith Williams. I know he's only been here for, 2.5 weeks. What do you know about him, and what kind of player can he be in your linebacker room this fall?
Well, I think he's going to add a really good element of just physicality and knockback. I mean, he is thick. I mean, he is like, his chest is a barrel. I mean, oh my goodness. Like, you give the guy a hug and he's 6 feet, but you can't get your arms around him. His shoulders are so broad. So anyway, he's going to show up and hit some people, and I'm really excited about that. That's an element that we don't have, being about 240 pounds right now. But obviously, being from Cornell, I mean, just in general, you already know the kid's smart. He's from a really good high school football program that we have great relationships with. Those guys gave him just a glowing recommendation. And then when Coach Powell's had a chance to get a hold of some of their coaches and just said, hey, give me a character reference. I mean, they had glowing reviews as well. So we know we're getting a really high character young man. We know we're getting a really smart young man. And on top of that, I watched a lot of film. He's a good football player. So anyway, but we're not handing out starting positions. And he knew that in the recruiting process. We never do that, especially in the linebacker room. You got to step up and earn it. So anyway, he's going to get a chance to compete, same with everybody else. And I think that you'll see him on the field this fall. He's a pretty talented athlete.
The overwhelming response I got from some of the guys on Monday, they couldn't wait to play themselves in the video game this fall. How about for yourself? Would you do that? Would you line up and see 34 out there? Play yourself?
Oh, man. Oh, that'd be unique. Never had that experience, but man, it'd be kind of cool. Hey, EA Sports or whoever's doing this game, don't make me look fat. I tell you what, don't make me look.
What would be your top attribute? What would you, speed, tackling? What would you say? What's number
tackling.
one?
Tackling for sure. Give me a good tackle ranking. Don't worry about the rest. I'll be okay.
To a man, guys I talk to say, I can't wait. Donovan Woolen said, I can't wait to play myself in the video game. I'm like, that's where we're at though, right? In 2026, that's what when you're on the road recruiting, that's a real thing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's fun. I don't care who you are. That's a fun experience to be able to do something like that. I think it's awesome. Yeah, it's without a doubt going to help recruiting. I mean, all of a sudden, I think that we've really separated ourselves from a lot of other former competitors on the recruiting trail. And now it's really like, if you're from the upper Midwest, after the Big Ten, because realistically, the Big Ten is king in the upper Midwest. Yep. After that, here's NDSU with big old open arms. We want you. And I think that's pretty darn fun and going to really help us out a lot.
Great to see you, bud. Thanks so much for doing this. I know you're a busy man. We'll talk soon. Thanks for the time this morning, okay?
Absolutely. Thanks, Tom.
Good to see you. There he goes. NDSU Defensive Coordinator Grant Olson giving us the lowdown on recruiting, which is obviously something that I've heard ad nauseum here over the last 72 hours, is how this is going to affect what NDSU is going to do going forward, who they're going to look at. Are they going to look further west? I think they have to be cognizant of that, but I think Grant hit it on the head. Where have they had their bread and butter? is in North Dakota. It's certainly in Minnesota. It's certainly in Wisconsin. They've hit Illinois, a touch in Iowa. That's not going to change. I know some have said, well, can they go back to Florida with the amount of great players they had in there? Sure. Texas, they've had a couple of big guys, but you look where he mentioned a few guys there. Donovan Williams, a Texas kid, right? Griffin Empey, Wisconsin. Keaton Wilson, Twin Cities. Nathan Hayes, Chicago. That's the areas they're still going to hit. Now, frankly, there might be other players they just couldn't get that now they may have a chance. I'm going to name names here. Like Carson Hansen's a guy who dad played in NDSU, really good player for the Bison in the 90s, right? Won a national championship out of Lakeville South, right? Was a great player that Matt Entz told me, and I can say it now, could spill the tea on this 3 years later. It was between Iowa State and NDSU for Carson Hansen. He went to Iowa State because it's the Big 12. Now, does that conversation change if North Dakota State is now a Mountain West member? I believe maybe not necessarily for Carson, but maybe on the long run, yeah, maybe they got a heck of a chance now to win a guy like that going forward. That, to me, is really interesting to see what goes forward there. Those kind of battles that NDSU may have just missed out on a guy because that a school that is a Big 12 and the like could get them, and they're an FCS team. Again, I'm not saying they're going to beat out Ohio State and Notre Dame, and they're not. No, let's not be ridiculous here. But with Minnesota, maybe we could see some battles there. Again, it's a Big Ten. They're going to offer oodles of money that NDSU can't and won't be able to do. But there might be some other battles that they can have going forward. That should be a heck of a lot of fun over the next little bit to keep our eyes peeled on that. All right, let's break. We come back. We'll wrap up this portion of Hot Mic. We got Bison Media Zone coming up. We'll hear from some of the Bison players about their reaction to going to the Mountain West Conference, and we'll get a bunch of emails, texts coming in as well over what has transpired. At least the sun is out somewhere. The fog is here. We'll wrap up Hot Mic after this. All right, wrapping things up here on a Wednesday morning edition of Hot Mic. Tomorrow, North Dakota State women's basketball coach Jory Collins will join the show, get us ready. The Bison have just the one game this week. NDSU is at UND on Sunday. Note the date and time of that. It's 1 o'clock on Sunday. We'll get the lowdown on that. We'll spend some more time on Summit Hoops coming up in the BMZ here in just a minute. But the latest bracketology ESPN had out yesterday, and they update it every Tuesday and Friday. The Bison women right now slated as a 10 seed. They would play in Ann Arbor, Michigan against the Georgia Bulldogs in a 7-10 matchup. The Bison are all the way up to a 10. The Bison men, according to Joe Lenardi, are a 14 seed and would face third-seeded Michigan State in Philadelphia. I'm going to tell you right now, on the old bucket list of things, right? Tell me right now, how good would a Tom Izzo, Dom Izzo interview be? Right? I mean, let's be honest. I'm just going to insert myself into the conversation. I never do that. That would be all right to have a Tom Izzo, Dom Izzo interview on Hot Mic, right? So make it happen. Let's see. Bison still got to get there. A long way to go, including a biggie on Saturday against UND, which we'll get to coming up here in just a little bit. We talked about Dave Richmond about that yesterday on the show in preparing for that. NFL Combine list is out. Just came out as we were on with Grant. NFL released 319 prospects have been invited to this year's Combine. North Dakota State will have 2 players there. As we first reported, Cole Payton will be there, and Bryce Lance will be there. The Combine begins on February 26th. That's 2 weeks from tomorrow. The quarterback and wide receiver drills are on the same day, so there is the possibility that Peyton could be throwing to Lance during the drills. That's on February the 28th, a Saturday. 2 weeks from Saturday is when that will take place. So here you go. That's going to be must-see TV, I know, for many around here. We're going to have Cole and Bryce join us between now and the start of the Combine. They get there a few days ahead of time, so probably by next week we will anticipate having them on the show. Also, we have reached out to various Mountain West universities to have coaches on. We're hopeful we're going to have Jason Eck on, New Mexico head coach, between now and the end of the week, and we will keep you as up-to-date as we can with the knowledge of who these people are, where they're located. I mean, Grant was even saying he was watching our video that we did the tour of the Mountain West yesterday on the show, the different stadiums. That's something we're all finding out together, which makes the next, I'd say, 5.5 months even more exciting, invigorating of what's to come, because we had covered it before. We knew, like, all right, there's a couple of new spots that NDSU was going to go to this year. Like San Antonio, I think there were people that were excited about the Incarnate Word trip, simply maybe to go to the Riverwalk. Or Central Arkansas, the purple and gray football field. Well, now it's been completely blown up. Now we're talking about locales like Honolulu, like Las Vegas, like Reno, Laramie, Albuquerque, San Jose. All of those now are on the docket that were not even remotely imaginable as of late last week. That is the hard part about that. So we'll see. Much more on that in the coming days, weeks, months on the show. Let's do some What to Watch before we get out of here. All right, What to Watch brought to us by our friends at Northwestern Mutual. Okay, they mentioned the men's hockey tournament is underway. Finland and Slovakia are playing now. Sweden and Italy coming up later today on the USA Network just after 2 o'clock. The Timberwolves will play their final game before the All-Star break tonight. They got Portland in town, 7 o'clock on FanDuel Sports North, and good women's game tonight. UConn is the only longer winning streak than the Bison in women's basketball. Connecticut has Creighton coming up on Peacock tonight at 6 o'clock. Our thanks to Drew Trafton, to Jason Brend, and Grant Olson. If you missed any of the show, you can podcast it later today at Inforum.com. You can watch a full replay on WDAY+. Bison Media Zone is minutes away. It's coming up. We come back on Hot Mic tomorrow.